Welcome back to Fresh Outlook. Some say it's about more than just greeting cards and boxes of chocolate that are shaped like hearts. They say Valentine's Day is an opportunity to honor the relationships that we have with other people, the people who are closest to us. And we're learning that these intimate relationships are just as important as many of our lifestyle and biological factors. Let's say hello to the Ebru think tank. I'm joined by Tom LaVecchia, who is a medical expert in the healthcare marketing field. Dr. Bart Rossi, who is a psychologist, who is an expert on relationships as well. We'll be talking to him by that. And the woman I am joined with on the panel has the privilege of having been married 40 years. How can that be? You're 42 years old. Let's say hello to Patricia Fakay. Did I say your name right?
Yes, you did.
I did.
Yeah. And
you are a registered nurse, and you also teach nursing at Adelphi.
Right.
40 years. Let's talk about love and marriage and relationships right off the bat. How do you keep it going for 40 years? Let's get a quick take on relationships.
I'm speechless. I married my high school sweetheart. Mm-hmm. We married for love, not because it was the conventional thing to do, and down south you marry early, so we married right out of high school.
Do you think a first love, if you can marry that person, is a stronger bond?
I think so, because that's what ours is. You just have to keep communication there and care about each other. Our relationships has changed over years. He did travel quite a bit, but we were in constant contact, and now we're here, not back down south where he was traveling all the time. So it's a unique relationship, because now what would have happened to people at the beginning of that relationship is happening to us now, because we're both home in the evening, not traveling all over the world.
Sounds good. Your husband's rolling his eyes. But
yes, he probably is.
No,
I'm looking at him over there.
Dr. Rossi, what are the characteristics of a successful relationship, or what's your advice to forge the type of relationship that Patricia and her husband have?
Well, I think it really comes down to, especially for women, how much a man invests in that other person. You know, how much
financially?
Not just cash. No. Although you can invest in many, you can invest in many different ways. It could be cash, but it doesn't have to be. It could be just being especially nice, or it could be something else. You know, but women really want guys, even in a long-term relationship, that invest in them and look at them and care for them and pay attention. And I think that a lot of guys are not necessarily going down that same road, especially in relationships today. You know, with the internet, everybody's looking at who they're going out with, what they can do, if they can get over on somebody else, and a lot of games are being played. And I think a long-term relationship requires people to really be giving on both ends. Yeah.
It's a tough time, Tom. I feel sorry for young women today, because the whole idea of courtship and romance seems to be out the window. Mm-hmm. I mean, you read article upon article about dating, and it's not about dating. Now it's about hooking up and people having casual relationships. And it's kind of a scary time for a young man and a young woman who have an earnest heart.
Correct. Now, there is definitely a feeling of a hookup culture, as you alluded to. But it's interesting enough is you shouldn't feel bad for either a man or a young woman at this point, because if he or she acts a certain way and someone is willing to accept that behavior, then they're both at fault. Right. But if you're willing to take the high road and accept courtship, love, and respect, you'll have a better outcome.
Oh, right. I think
that's true. You will have a better outcome if you respect each other and you try to make life as dynamic and as meaningful as possible. And a lot of people aren't really going down that road. They're thinking about the hookup, like you say. They're looking about what's in it for them in the short run, not necessarily the long run. It's very shallow thinking.
So having these good relationships now is tied scientifically to having, one, a more fulfilled life. Yeah. Anecdotally, we know that at least. And two, perhaps the people who are in good relationships are healthier. Patricia, tell me about healthy aging and the role of relationships in that process.
Well, in positive relationships or long-term relationships, both people or that family unit in a relationship actually encourage each other, look out for each other. If one of the partners has a chronic illness, the other one is making sure that the doctor's appointments are met, or medications are there, or just even making sure that certain things can be done differently. As we get older, sometimes we have to accept that we can't really do a lot of the physical things we used to do, But it's nice that you have a gardener, or maybe someone's there cleaning the gutters out instead of you taking a chance on the roof.
Dr. Bart Rossi, talk to me a little bit about aging. There was a book that I found pretty profound, which was Timeless Mind, Ageless Body by Deepak Chopra. And he said 50 years should be an awakening and a rebirth. And how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? That you almost should ignore the concept of age and just do what you feel is right for you. Talk to me about the psychological impact of resisting old thinking and remaining a vital person even as you quote unquote age.
Well, sure. I think it's important for all of us to be relevant in any way it could be, whether it's through work or in retirement, what we do, how we could help others. But you know, psychologists say that without mental health, there's no health. And I think that's probably true. If you don't have good mental health or mental stability, how can you have a good relationship and how do you remain healthy physically? So I think going down this road that you're talking about here, I think you need to have good psychological makeup. You have to work on yourself personally and how your thinking is going and what you want to do with your life at any age. And then you'll get to that point that you're talking about being free, no matter what the age, to do what you want to do and be content with life. And then you'll be a much happier person.
It's interesting. My mother used to have an interesting quote at the end of her life. She used to say, you don't age, everybody around you ages. Because the voice inside your head stays the same. Tom, what do you think about the role of eating right, exercise? We're told all of these things every day to combat at least the effects of aging. Your thoughts on promoting this type of healthy living?
Well, most of the plastic surgeons that we work with, we also work with some internists, and they promote more of a comprehensive approach, not just simply looking good, but feeling good. And we work with some top folks in the city, in Manhattan, and they won't look at somebody and do any type of procedure unless they're, you know, mentally sound or even physically sound, because there's a commitment.
You also make a good point, though, Tom, that if you do look your best physically, whether it's through diet, exercise, or even cosmetic surgery, it's going to affect you personally, it's going to affect the others around you as well. So that does have a profound effect, if not on the physical aging, but on the psychology that you have inside your head.
Oh, absolutely. So if you look at somebody and they look great, they feel great, and they give off or emanate confidence, that makes that person more attractive. They're more prone to making more money, having better relationships, and having a better social life. So there is a material effect between how people look, how people feel, and how they live their life in terms of income and happiness.
Patricia, what do you think about that? What do you think about the role? I think it's an interesting one about aging and cosmetic surgery. I'm all for it. If I need it, I'll get it. Haven't had it yet, swear.
You have to look at, does the person really have happiness with themselves, and is that cosmetic change going to be a positive for them or a negative? Because we have seen the negative side of it, where a person thought that this change was going to attract more people, get them a better job, that you really need to make sure that that person has enough information to make a right decision. And I see a lot of those adverts that are on TV, some of them are now being more realistic than they were before.
And like Tom said, you get a good practitioner who's going to evaluate you, make sure you're not expecting to find the love of your life if you get a procedure done, as opposed to having a realistic goal and change in mind. Thanks so much for our thoughts from our think tank. And when we come back, we're going to be going lightning fast because it is time for our lightning round after this.